Everybody, we got another great episode for you guys today. We have Joe Ball from Blue Tongue Lizards here and lizard.com. And he's one of the Australian guys. He's probably the top breeder of blue tongue skinks in Australia. Been doing it for a long time and just amazing. So stay tuned for this episode.
Yeah, hi guys, how y'all going? Yeah, I can't wait to spend a couple of hours with the guys from Herp Rocks, and we're going to look at all the different bluey morphs and a few cool carpet morphs, a couple of little skinks, that kind of stuff. And if the stream holds up, we're going to go for a wander outside and have a look at some of the big goanna aviaries and some of the bird projects that I've recently set up. So it should be pretty jam-packed full of some interesting stuff. So visually, not just wordy and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it should be fun.
That's awesome. I'm psyched.
Yeah, I'm excited. All right. So the first question that we always start everybody off with, and it's a shame that Dave's going to miss this, but he'll be hopping on soon. How did you get started in blue tongue skinks and in animals, breeding animals in general?
I suppose my love for animals is, I think, like a lot of us animal nerds, it's something I think you're born with, and you get to sort of that age of 3 or 4 or whatever, and suddenly you find you've got an obsessive interest in catching little things in the garden, that kind of stuff. For me, it was little frogs and little mice and anything I could get my hands on, really, and that sort of carried on until I was a little bit older, and once I got my own space, I could pursue that interest a little bit more. So I suppose really if you're asking about breeding, after keeping animals for sort of 20 years, odd bits of this and bits of that, when I got into my early 30s, I decided I wanted to really chase it, and one thing led to another, and here we are today. So, and I suppose the big piece of the journey for me there is moving from the cold UK to here in Australia, and having my own place and space and the weather, and being able to chase something that I previously thought not possible. So, yeah.
Wow. So, I this is something I got to ask. So you moved to Australia, and you're like, I'm going to get into blue tongue skinks and breeding animals. What is it like to go through all the hoops of all the regulations in Australia? Because we've talked with people, and they're like, Australia's tough with regulations for animals.
Yeah, I mean, in regard to licensing, there's 2 ways of looking at it. Yes, some of the licensing is pretty draconian in regards to what you can and can't do, but the licensing itself and using it is pretty easy. And here in Queensland, which is another point, the rules vary from state to state. The list is pretty long, and you can keep a pretty cool list of critters here. But as you guys know, it is only native animals to Australia.
Right.
You can't have anything exotic. Okay, you've got a couple of Indonesian species of green tree pythons and the white-lip pythons, couple of things that are marginal there, but essentially they're Australasian species. So we can't touch half the stuff you guys can. But if you love Australian wildlife, the opportunity here is still massive, and it depends how you want to look at it. I like to look at it as a massive opportunity rather than get too hung up on what the rules and regs don't allow you to do. Australian species are cool, and I think there's more than enough for us guys here to get into once you've navigated the licensing and so on. And I think the fact that because you can't import, it sort of gives you your own unique little marketplace, an opportunity if you want to become a breeder to do some stuff that isn't going to get influenced by the latest import of this or that or the other. So, and that I suppose is where I've had my success.
All right.
regard to being able to operate in a marketplace that is literally just native stuff and not overtaken by overseas animals, you know. Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, that's definitely a positive way to look at it. I think that a lot of times we get hung up on the regulations, you know, like, oh man, they're taking away our rights of this and that, which is true, and it's a bummer, and you know, there's a lot of restrictions, things like that. But taking a look at the positive aspect of it, that's a good outlet.
You have to at the end of the day. I know it's frustrating for you guys because you can't get some of the stuff that, you know, us breeders do over here, but that's the same both ways. And you know, if you look at our species list, there's hundreds of things that you can keep, and I'd sooner just be happy with that, you know. So,
all right. So I mean, I was talking to you a little bit about this earlier. I only thought that you kept blue-tongue skinks and a few other little things here and there, but then I saw the Dave Kaufman and the Camp Kennan, if you will, video of the tour at your house, and I saw the aviary, and I saw, you know, amazing birds. You have obviously a bunch of really cool snakes. So what, aside from blue-tongue skinks, because we're going to talk a lot about them, I think, because Ryan and I and Dave, we all keep blue-tongue skinks here. How many species of birds do you have? And
we've got, and it's different here with the birds. I'll just put that out there before we start. You're actually allowed to keep some exotic birds in Australia, and that's essentially what I've got. I've got colourful macaws, so scarlet and blue and gold macaws, and some of the mutations that there are within those species. I've also got some Amazons, and then some Aussie species. I've got some mutation rainbow lorikeets, and also galahs. You know, your rose-breasted cockatoos. So yeah, a nice mix of exotic and native stuff. Not too many. I mean, you say not too many. It's sort of about 25 birds I've got, but it's not, you know, not like some of the real big bird keepers. For me, it's something sort of something of major interest, but a side interest rather than something to the extent that my blue tongues is per se. So yeah, that's the bird stuff. And then that was all you asked, wasn't it? The birds, yeah.
Yeah,
so
birds so far.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Do you know Chris Cuppers? I'm sure you know Chris Cuppers. He's from Cuppers Critters.
Chris and I have spoken quite a bit over the years. Yeah. Chris is another keeper down here that he gets his blue tongues from me, and he's given me a bit of help. He was into birds a bit before me, so I've spoken to Chris a bit about birds. Yeah, he's one of the guys that I know. He was on your show recently. So yeah.
He's since he's been on the show, he messages me like pictures of cockatiels sitting in his front yard that just flew in, and I'm like, I can't believe, like, we can't get anything like that. Like, it's nothing, you know. It's crazy. It's awesome that the wildlife you guys have that just hang out.
Yeah, just in my yard here, you've got black cockatoos, sulphur crested cockatoos, all the different cockatoos, corellas, galahs. What else? There's king parrots. There's all sorts of amazing things that literally just fly over. Which
that's awesome.
You know, lorikeets, so many different parakeets, parrots, and cockatoos. That for an English guy like me, it's a dream. I see it through the eyes that you guys would. You know.
Yeah.
Some of the Australians that live here go, "Oh, it's just a flipping cockatoo. It's annoying. Things are everywhere." But I'm like, no, that is sensational. You know, when you're used to seeing things such, you know, basically crows and blackbirds and a few sparrows and a few bits and pieces like that, as beautiful as they are, it's just not the same, guys. And you really need you need them taken off you, basically, because you're not appreciating what you've got here. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I suppose that boils down to what I was saying with being happy with your lot, because Australia is so rich in flora and fauna and all these wonderful animals that if you can't find something to get your teeth into as an animal lover here in Australia, I don't think you're looking at it correctly. So, yeah.
That's true.
So I know Dave his girlfriend is messaging us like, we just got here, we're setting up and all this stuff. So I really don't want to dig into a lot that he's going to be like super interested in. But do you keep any venomous stuff?
No, I've never done that, and that was one thing I've always avoided. I think with the background that I've got, I haven't lived in Australia for all my life. Only getting towards 20 years now. I have no experience with venomous snakes. I don't feel confident around them. I love them, but if I were to do it, I think I know what the end result would be. And all the people that I know with all the experience of venomous snakes have all got half a dozen stories that they can recount when they've been bitten by a brown or a red belly or this or that and the other. And I'm like, well, maybe not for me. Yeah.
I hear you, man. I'd be that guy. Like, I'd be super cautious.
All the ven keepers can turn around and say what they like. Yeah, I'm a dead set pussy when it comes to those things. I'll leave them exactly where they are. I can enjoy them, but they can stay right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like looking at them, but I just know that, like, I'd be real cautious and real careful, and then one day, finally, I'd be like, you know what? I really just got to man up and just do it, and I'll get in, and I'll get bit.
It's going to happen, Like, I don't have a drama with that either. I'm confident enough to catch quite a few of the venomous snakes and have done, but I just see a disaster around the corner. So I just leave it to the guys that are happy to operate in that danger field.
Yeah.
Here he is. Look at him.
Hi. So hey Joe, why are you putting a timeline on this, buddy? Telling me I got 2 hours, I can't show up late to this? What's wrong with you? You're not that fucking important, buddy. It's Monday. You got all the time in the world right now.
He has a lunch engagement.
Oh, I've got my mother in my ear about something. She's moving some stuff in her house because she's put some tiles down and she can't lift this, that, or the other. So, yeah, I've got to get there at lunchtime.
I'm not saying your mom's not important, but you're the only guy who ever booked 6 weeks ahead of time. You're not allowed to put a timeline on this, buddy. Who the fuck your mom with? We could have done it with your mom.
We're gonna have to strike that, reverse it.
She'll wait. I'm not gonna hold you up. Yeah.
Well, so you got a lot to fit in a little amount of time, bud. So I'm not sure what you guys have been chattering about, but we're gonna have to get into the nitty gritty then.
Yeah, we just did the first question that we always do, and then kind of how many bird species he has and if he has venomous. So really, we haven't even cracked the surface yet.
Wide open, Dave. Wide open.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're good to roll.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't really have anything to say, so you guys keep doing what you're doing.
I want to know what snakes do you have behind you for the viewers and listeners? Then we can,
Yeah, we'll have a look at those. This is a project that I'll cut to the chase. What I wanted to achieve here was you're all familiar with the lava blue tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I wanted to achieve with these guys, and Dav Kaufman showcased these on his video that you guys may or may not have seen. These are a carpet python that incorporates albinism and a polygenic form of hypermelanism found in the breadlie, which was basically a route that I wanted to take to get the rich oranges, which you can see basically popping in front of you there. So I don't know how clear they are to you guys, but yeah.
It's good.
Can you see them?
Yeah.
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 Those are awesome, man.
Just get this guy out. Yeah. There you go.
I like the way you set that up. Like the lava and the blue tongue, you want to put in a carpet python. It's smart. It's very smart.
I think that over the years and having produced the lava blue tongue sort of 8-9 years ago, whatever it was now, the reaction to that has never seemed to soften. I and other breeders have created animals with more genetics, different combos, newer combos, multi-gene animals, but nothing has ever beaten the impact that the lava's had. And it doesn't have to be complex for people to enjoy it, right? It's just got to look good. It can have one gene in it, 2 genes in it, 3 genes in it. You guys know, you've seen all the ball python stuff. Doesn't really matter what you stack in there. At the end of the day, when you look at it, does it say, fucking hell, that's awesome? Well, yeah, that's what the larva does. So that's what I try to achieve when I try and produce something new. It's all about trying to produce something that looks good, not necessarily, I've got to do this, and this. Well, why? It's got to have a why,
Mm-hmm.
and an appeal, which goes back to what you were saying. Hopefully that comes across as smart because it has outcomes, Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the funny thing is about the lava, typically in albinoism, when you put a black pigment into an albino, you get a striking white. The fact that you got all that color pigment coming through was kind of surprising.
And I think that's it's a very interesting point. And I think it just shows that the hypermelanistic blue tongue is not the same mutation as what you guys have seen in corn snakes and any other examples of that. It's sort of more, if this is the correct terminology, I believe it to be, it's sort of more hyperchromic, which means it's producing every single pigment that's available to the animal in large quantities, So when you pick up a black blue tongue, it's got that bright orange belly. And then all the albinism is doing is taking off the black and leaving this flash red orange animal. I'll just grab one.
Yeah. So, and Dave, while he's grabbing one, who do you got with you? You don't have to hide her. There we go.
Well, I told her she was allowed to be here as long as she talks.
There we go.
So yeah, there you see the comparison. So you've got your larva there compared to your standard albino. So,
Man, that is gorgeous. Oh.
and that photographed correctly, and that's not a bad image. But as you know, when that's photographed correctly in some soft light outside, that thing is just insane.
Oh, unbelievable.
So, yeah, and like I say, any reptile that displays that kind of orange, you usually get people going nuts for it. Doesn't matter whether it's a wild type or a mutation. Another example is the Goldfield shinglebacks that have got the bright orange and black on them. Everybody wants one of those, And then some of the desert skinks from over here that are bright orange. Everybody wants those, So as soon as it's got that orange on it, they want it. And same with the breadley, the breadley carpets. Everybody wants a breadley because it's orange, And that's for me, that they're the two colours people either want: brilliant white or brilliant orange. And that's it there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to let everybody else know, the lava stuff is the hypermelanistic and albino, right? That's what the cross is?
yeah, that's your larva there that you're looking at. Yeah, on that photo. So
So I showed up 12 minutes late to the episode, and you said your origins when you got into it and everything else. 2 things. First off, was the albino gene the first gene that you got to work with in skinks, or what was that first gene that got you into breeding with mutations?
Well, when I first got into skinks, I just picked up a couple of common eastern blue tongues from a local pet shop. However, online at that point, there was a mob over here called Snake Ranch. You may or may not remember them, and they produced or they picked the founder animals. Hi, Cheryl. They got the founder hypermelanistics and the founder albinos. And they just started to replicate those. So when I got into it, there was a couple of those already out there. I wasn't that new into the piece on those. So I picked up hypermelanistic and albino straight off the bat. And that was when I got into it. And that would have been 2008/9, something like that. Yeah.
So, man, I'm all over the place. Honestly, Joe, I'm excited that you're here, man. This podcast is like 15, 16 weeks in now, and we've ironically had a lot of skink talk, even though we've never really got opportunity to have skink talk. So, I gave you a hard time earlier. Really want to pick your brain, man, because the
Yeah,
crazy
no,
thing is, we
I'm
have
good for that.
opinions
I
on
can
how to
stand
do
that.
this. The most unique opinion on how to breed these guys was from Chris Cupper, who spends a lot of time with you, has talked to you a lot over the years.
Mhm.
Depends if you guys are friends. I don't know if it's legit or not, or if he was just trying to act like he knew, was cool or something. But he pretty much said you guys were besties. He even said you guys shared underwear every once in a while. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe not that
Well,
far.
Chris is kind of an interesting dude. I mean, I'm not going to hold that against him, but that is a quote from Chris.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe it doesn't go that deep, but maybe he just wanted plenty of skinks, and yeah, he got his way over time. So,
Hey,
yeah.
you know what? If all I had to do was share underwear with you to get skink spud, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's it. I've had some interesting propositions in order to get a few skinks from different people. So, yeah,
As you should.
yeah, that's it. Oh, that's why I do it. Anything weird and wacky.
Oh, man.
And so COVID, man, we talked about this. I should be visiting you right now. The plan is to be out there in June or July. You had to cancel your trip to Europe this past year, right?
Yeah, that's it. I can't go anywhere. But you know what? Good. I'm happy with where I'm stuck. I will say that. But yeah, I basically haven't moved from this little house on the hill, if you like, since that all started. And yeah, when I see what's gone on with you guys and some of my English buddies back home, hasn't really affected us. I'll be honest. I think it could still come yet. But yeah, scary stuff.
See, your problem compared to our problem is Donald Trump isn't your president. If Donald Trump is your president, it would be so much worse in Australia right now when it comes to COVID stuff.
You reckon? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I like
for
it. I like him. I like it. At least you can listen to the guy. You know what I mean? He's quite interesting. I don't know whether he's any good for your country, but for comedy value from somebody overseas, I think he's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just another dumb American. I just want to be entertained. I didn't necessarily. I didn't vote, so I can't say anything. But you know what? I've been pretty entertained last few years, and that's all that matters.
That was all you wanted him for. So yeah.
Maybe it's an
admittance that politicians don't do anything in the first place, and you just want, well, let's get a clown in there and just be entertained. So I like the strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. Arguably, but we'll say politics. It's sad. There's no after the second hour mark with you. We can't talk politics later. We're throwing it really early, which is
we
weird.
can do some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm on a whole other thing right now. I drink a margarita. We usually don't do these on Sundays. So since we got margarita
you
day,
should have got me in the evening and you guys sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sober.
I've never really been a morning drinker, but yeah, I certainly have a few in the evening. So.
Well, it's the morning, it's Monday, and you got your mom in about 2 hours. So, I don't blame you. But okay, so do we do the usual?
We did, yeah.
Joe, would you please teach us how to be successful skink breeders? I want to be Joe successful.
That's a big question, isn't it?
The biggest.
Well, I suppose it's the same as any success, isn't it, really? Any success that you have with anything, you've got to love it before you start. And you've got to have a target and an aim. So, and a bit of process in there. For me, when I first started, I picked up the albinos and the hypermels. And the first thing I wanted to do with them was not what I see countless people want to do. And that was, I wanted to outbreed them and make a couple of generations of animals for me to keep and enjoy, and seeing what I could do with them. And you see a lot of people, they get into these projects and it's like, right, I need my money back next year. And they want to literally just replicate. And I think that primarily is the first and probably the biggest failure that a lot of breeders encounter when it comes to being successful, whether it's with skinks or snakes or whatever. And it doesn't need to necessarily just be with mutations either. Getting the right animals and keeping the right animals is and enjoying that is biggest point for me along a successful journey, and then the rest will fall into place after that. As long as you've got the time and the passion which goes with it, you know.
So everything you just said was amazing, but you helped me nothing there. I want to hear diets. I want to hear scheduling. I want to hear your temperatures. I want to get excited, buddy. I'm talking. These are basic bitch questions. I need you to talk to me like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing right now.
So we could do what we could do is say, all right, how about this piece, and then you can talk about it. And we'll say this piece.
I had a similar conversation to this only yesterday, actually, and I'll say the biggest thing to breed skinks for me, and this was a conversation I had with Peter Birch yesterday, and I think he shared that opinion with me, and that's understanding ambient temperatures. And I think you look in a lot of books and you'll see people say, oh, how warm do I keep them? And it'll go, right, 30 warm end, 15 cold end. And they'll just run away and try and do that. And it's like, no. You're missing the biggest piece of the jigsaw. And that is the ambient temperature of the room that you're keeping the animals in. And those ambients need to match a typical Australian day in the shade, if you like. So at this time of year, my shed's obviously going to match it because I live in Australia, but for you guys in the States or anybody in Europe and so on, you know, you need the ambient temperature in your room at night to not drop below, say, well, to drop down to, but not much lower than, say, 12, 13 degrees. And then in the day for it to get up to and not much more than sort of 20 degrees. And then once you've captured that, then you use your cage heat to be able to give the animals a basking spot. And once you've done that, I reckon you'll breed anything you want, whether it's, again, carpets, snakes, whatever. And again, match the temps in the summer too to what's typical. And I think you're home and hosed. And a way to do that, you say that's okay. You're saying that, you know, he lives in Southeast Queensland. It's a piece of piss for him. But a way to do that, if you've got a nicely insulated room, if it gets too cold in there, just get a $20 heater and stick it in the room, and stick a little thermometer on the wall. And get those ambients right in that room, you know. And once you've got your room right, then stick your cages in, then stick a bask spot, and away you go. Is that a bit closer to what you were asking, David?
Well, I'm going to get into more detail with you because that was good, but I want more.
More.
So, okay, I want to talk to you about one thing. There are a few guys in the United States that have been utilizing a basking bulb for their males to get them all fired up and then introduce them to their females.
Yeah.
You go to breed, you wake up and just start throwing them together, or do you have a heat up the male process before you introduce the females?
Well, you do need both animals warm to mate them. You know, I've heard various stories, and I've probably gone online and said different things at different times in my relative stages of experience. But I find the best way to make your animals is sort of mid-afternoon when they've all reached their preferred body temperature. They're warm right to the core, and they're at their most active. That way, your female's going to be, you know, she's there. She's had a chance to defecate and all those things after she's been cooled. Her system is properly pumping, you know, and the male is at his most active. I hear stories about people, I'll get the male hot and keep the female cold. Well, it doesn't really work in any animal in the animal kingdom. It wouldn't work for me with my partner, so I don't think it's going to work for any other animal at all. I think you've got to get both animals to the right temperature, and they've both got to be in the perfect state. And there's a way that you can go to the cage I can even see it. I can just pull open the drawer, one of my racks, or open one of my 4-foot cages, or a cage outside. I keep skinks in a variety of different situations. I can tell the moment I get to those cages, in the middle of the breeding season as to whether those animals are going to be receptive. For instance, if a female sat at the cold end and you touch her, she's cold to touch, she ain't going to have any of it. Male the same. Whereas if you go to a female cage and you can see that she's been wandering around, she's defecated slightly, not necessarily defecation, but some kind of urate or urine or whatever, and she's there happily basking at one end, then you introduce a male or the other way around, a male that's in his tub, he's pacing his tub or his cage, he's dropped some sperm on the floor. If all these boxes are ticks, then you put them together. It doesn't matter if you put the male in with the female or vice versa. You're going to get your desired outcome. Okay. So, yeah.
In the United States, has been said a lot. And by the way, the reason I keep referring to the United States is, as we did the interview with Chris Cupper, I really feel like we've been doing everything completely opposite from you guys. We have a way that makes it work here, of course, and yeah, our seasons are different, but the reality is everything he was saying is literally the complete opposite that has ever been taught to us in the United States. What are your thoughts on shed cycles after they come out of cooling? Do you wait for your males to come out of shed before you start pairing, or do you never even pay attention to that?
Yes and no. You will find that all the males that go into slough, they will 90% of the time be ready to mate after they've had a slough. But those males that don't appear to be going into a slough may already be in the window. So essentially, yes, the shed on a male is a very key pointer. But if that male doesn't go into shed, it doesn't mean he's not going to go into his mating window, and he just may not shed and just get straight into it. So,
by the way, Benjamin Ryan, anytime, just jump in.
I'm curious real quick.
You go ahead, man. I'm listening.
I'm just curious real quick. What are the basking temps that you're keeping them at?
I reckon they get, and this is a tricky one for me to answer because I'm one of those keepers that is hard to pin numbers to like that, because I do a lot of stuff by eye. I've got animals outside and inside, and I run all my rats on timers. I know what all those rats are capable of. I leave the heat on for a period of time, and they just go and get it. And to me, I can grab an animal and see by its behavior as to whether it's happy or not. It feels toasty. Is it always at the front of the tub? Is it always at the back of the tub? Where's it sitting in the outside enclosure? That kind of stuff. But I would say that they're just south of 40 degrees, the hot spots, because I've temperature tested a lot of lizards outside in the Australian winter with those little infrared temp guns to try and see, get a gauge on what their behavior is, what they're doing, how they feel, and actually what that temp was. It was a few years ago, but you would get lizards in the middle of the winter here that are reaching body temperatures of over 40 degrees, and on those days you've got a sort of shade temperature of not much more than 20, but they're getting on a pile of rocks and they're sitting in it all day, so it's a misconception. 40 degrees C? Pardon?
40 degrees C?
Yes, 40 degrees C.
Celsius. So that's like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes, and that's not every day, don't get me wrong, but on certain winter days there are reptiles that will reach those temperatures, and it sort of eludes you to ways in which you want to keep your animals inside. And I think people can fall under misguidance where they think everything's got to be cold through the winter, when really some of these animals can get up to some pretty high temperatures in the day, and then they just drop off a cliff at night and get pretty cold, once the sun goes behind the clouds or whatever,
Wow.
And if you think about it, and I've seen this on the minimal herping that I've done, in the winter you will find reptiles on north-facing slopes, and the reptiles, I believe, in the wild that are successful breeders are those that navigate this the best. You know, they'll find a north-facing slope. They'll be out from the rocks that they're hiding in, or whatever it is that they're using for shelter, and they will be in that sun the moment it comes up. They'll get maximum use out of it through the day, and they will use the thermal heat that area retains long into the evening, and they will suffer the least cold out of any of the animals. So yeah, it's not a straightforward thing. You know, you get suckered into the temps, but you need to look at what animals are actually doing if you give them the opportunity to do it outside, and that's where you'll learn a little bit more about how to keep them inside.
Do you think they'll eat during the winter? Because what we do and what we think and what we see and what I've ever heard was you stop feeding them, they don't eat all winter, but if they're heating up that hot during a day, I can't imagine them not needing to eat.
They won't eat if their body temperature drops down to 10 degrees at night. Doesn't matter how hot you get them in the day. If they're dropping down to 10 degrees at night outside consistently, they won't eat. You know, and there's nothing of mine outside that eats during the summer, during the winter when it's hitting those body temperatures. And all my animals inside, I haven't fed an adult blue tongue since May, since probably the first week in May, and we're now May, June, July, and I won't feed anything till mid-September after they've been mated. So yeah, there's people who feed them, but I don't. I take the opportunity to take the break as well, you know.
So I know that with your diet, at least what I've seen in the past, you do offer a dry, hard food in the enclosure. I think at one point maybe a bearded dragon diet of some kind you were doing.
Yeah, I've done different things over time, and sometimes looking at those videos can get a snapshot of where I was at that particular time. I still use that dry food. And the food topic is one that rages on different social media forums, and everybody's got their opinion and everybody's correct. But the way I've gone about it is I do still use that dry food. The ones that eat it, which is about 60% of them, they're great. You know, they end up being, for me, my best breeders. You can put dry food down for them. It's gone every time you go to the cage. They have the best condition. They're the perfect animals for me. So I personally don't have a problem and have my best success out of using dry cat food off the shelves and puppy food off the shelves of supermarkets. But that's only for 60% of your animals, and you do still need to go over the top with some variety. So what I do is I mix more complete diet foods, whatever I've got, whether it's some more of that cat food or some reptile specific stuff. I've had various goes with rapashi and some of the other stuff, the Arcadia stuff, that kind of stuff. I tend to get some of that, mix it with eggs, turkey mince, calcium, and make a big bucket of nutritious slop, if you like, and I will serve up every single blue tongue a bit of that. Some of the ones that eat a lot of dry food, I just give them smaller amounts of that. Those that won't eat the dry food, they'll get that twice a week. So it's a double-pronged approach because, you know, not all animals are the same, are they? You'd find that doesn't matter whether you've got 5 skinks or 50 skinks. All 5 of them ain't going to eat the same food. You're going to find one that eats everything and the other, well, that's a picky thing, and you have to find another solution for it. So for me, that dual-pronged approach will get 99% of what I've got. So, and eggs are the key, I think, for fussy animals. If you mix eggs through anything, you'll tend to get your result. And if it won't eat eggs, I'd question whether you still want to be keeping that animal as a breeder anyway. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we talked tegus last week, and I think Carlos said with tegus, you know, the first meal he offers it will be eggs, and they typically take to it pretty well. And then he kind of goes through and diversifies the diet.
It's pretty consistent that with little goannas, even with snakes. You know, I use a crop needle for snakes, and snakes that won't eat, I'll just crop 1/2 mil of egg yolk into their belly, you know, and just keep doing that every 10 days just to keep some condition on them until they decide they want to take down that prey. You know, it's KFC for reptiles, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Do you guys have KFC, by the way?
Yeah.
Are you getting the full
Yeah, of course.
experience that we do?
Of course we do. Yeah.
Is it legitimate KFC though? Like, does it kind of go through like a weird little kind of transition? It gets there and it's not as great.
What do you mean? It gets to where it's not as great?
Well, what I'm saying is I live right near Kentucky. To send that special recipe all the way to Australia, I know there's corners over there. You might not be getting the full experience.
Yeah, you say you're claiming some sort of greater experience than me. Yeah.
I'm sure when you think Dr. Pepper, you're not getting all 23 flavors, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's still pretty good. The old KF is here. Maybe the Australian chicken makes it better. Who knows? You know.
There you go.
That was a kangaroo reference, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, sure. That might have went over the head of people watching the show, so I'm just helping people out right now by letting them know what's going on.
You are very helpful, Dave.
Hey, helpful Dave today, buddy. Helpful Dave. I warned you, man. I had a margarita. This is Margarita Dave.
Yeah,
well, that's on top of shit.
I'm good with that.
So, Joe, again, unfortunately, because you got us on a real time frame, and you guys need to don't forget to raise your hands, because if you don't fucking raise your hands today, guys, you're not going to get any time in. So, Joe, you're talking about weaker babies or babies that didn't take the food right away. Now, I have talked to a lot of breeders in the United States that have had a big fallout with babies. I have a lot of suspicions on why we're having fallouts, but have you ever had a season where you had a larger fallout than usual and were able to pinpoint why that happened?
What, you just mean with weak babies?
Babies.
Yeah. It can... It's a big topic. I mean, with what I do, obviously, there's a lot of mutation breeding, and I can immediately point the finger and say, "Oh, that doesn't have enough outbreeding," and you can say, you know, that's the reason why I may get a litter of weak babies. But then that same pair, the following year or the previous year, may have produced a really strong, healthy litter. So. I think you get that out there to start with, in that just because it does that one year doesn't necessarily mean it will the following year. There could be a few different, you know, a couple of different things that affect the male and female differently at that given point. But again, for me, to get babies going, if they won't take the slop that I just described, and that is for the babies, which is an even greater concentration of egg yolk, turkey mince, bit of calcium in there, some form of balancing complete diet food. If they won't get on that in the first week or so, you're generally wasting your time. You know, and when you get an animal, you get small animals and you fight with them and they're runty for 3 or 4 months, is it really worth it? You know, so yeah, weak babies are a problem with blue tongues. I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, they're often not viable. The more work you put into them, you usually find that you end up losing those animals at some point on the journey anyway.
So, do you feel like there's a step along the way that maybe we miss with our adults that cause weaker babies?
Something that I've been trying to do, and I've only been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years, is administer quite a bit of calcium to the females when they're gravid. And what I use is a calcium syrup, and I've found that that's improved. Another topic that I'm sure that you guys have had, I've had a few of you guys come to me with this, and that's females that retain their babies. I.e. they're full gravid and then they just don't pass their babies, or only pass half of them, and so on. So I think there's something in that, and I think a lot of it's related to UV also. You know, that there's a lot of us that use racks and so on and so forth, and I think they're great, don't get me wrong, but I think also for pregnant females, I think the UV story is something that I think us blue tongue keepers have overlooked somewhat, and I think it's time we recanted it a little bit and start to acknowledged that plays a huge part in the full cycle of these animals, and for a female to have a decent, healthy litter, if she isn't subjected to UV, I think you might be asking for trouble on certain animals, and that could be one of the reasons too. So I started using these calcium supplements, more intensely for females, and also the last month where I can, I've got 25 outdoor individual cages. Get these females out there when they've had their last slough prior to having babies, and I think that will improve the strength of labor and the contractions and all that kind of stuff, because calcium levels are linked to that too. So yeah, I think that it's two letters. It's UV, I think, is the one that is the avenue that I don't think we explore enough.
So we're in a position now where, again, we keep on making changes because, the collection's ever growing, and the hobby in the United States when it comes to blue-tongued skinks has gone further in the last 6 to 7 years than it did in the previous 20. And honestly, the catalyst to that was two things. Number one, Joe Ball. Those pictures you posted of the lava and all this other stuff, and then around the same time, Brian Barczyk went to Australia, got a look at a bunch of things, started talking to him a lot more in the pet trade community, and suddenly this species blew up overnight.
Yeah, go on.
Oh no, I got drunk and forgot. You just talked.
I remember those. It was sort of over a 12-month, 2-year period that was, and for me that was right there. That was the blue tongue boom. I'd been keeping these things, and so had other few keepers down here, even when they weren't that popular. We just did it because we loved it. But yeah, it certainly took off then, and I think like you say, we all try and tweak things every year, and if you look at some of my early videos, I'd make statements that you can keep these things in racks and you can give them all this dry food and it's a piece of cake. And I think over the years, I think it's a little bit trickier than that. And I think it's great that all of us can revisit what we do each year. And I think that, yeah, it's never a closed book, is it? You've always got to add some new thoughts, new processes that you can play with along the way to make, to tackle you give your problem of your weak babies, or your females retaining that, or male sperm viability, all those things. And I think there's lots of little tweaks that we can make to our husbandry to get that right.
Understandable. Yeah. And by the way, so my lead up to me just kissing your ass there, because your ass deserves to be kissed, and that's your one time. Put the finger up, you get one of those an episode. The whole thing is in our hemisphere, and you have the same thing in yours, we have breeders in the southern hemisphere with a very high humidity, and that when they go to cool their animals down, legitimately are not truly getting that cool down like you guys do, or some of us that are the northern breeders do. And everyone's kind of talking, but the problem is we have a guy way up here talking about what happened to this guy here, and this guy over here, and this guy over here. And because of that, and with any species, like you said, paying attention to the animals, watching their behavior, knowing what they're doing, tells you what they're going to do or not going to do. But again, I hate to say it, I don't necessarily think we've cracked the code in the United States, and I almost feel like we're getting to the point where inbreeding has become such a thing that we're just going to start creating weaker animals. And it's not like the Don Patterson episode where we're talking about hybridization or anything like a stronger animal. This is legitimately, we only have a small gene pool, and the nicer we make these animals with live breeding, generally, I think over time is going to make them weaker animals.
Yeah.
The
I think blue tongues are particularly susceptible to that too, having worked with a few python morphs that seem to really withstand quite a bit of inbreeding. The blue tongues, I've done it a couple of times where I've outbred something and you've gone, right, we're set. Now we can do a little bit of inbreeding to bring out the mutations and so on. And you find that you can only go one generation. As soon as you go again, the viability of some of these animals really drops off. So it's a real problem in blue tongues, I think, inbreeding. I really do. I never thought that originally, but I really do. I don't know what the answer is when you've got a really small gene pool. I know you can, there is other animals out there. You've just got to get your hands on them, I suppose. and you've got to not have excuses. Find new animals to improve the genetic, the gene pool that you've got, because there's no other way of improving that. When it comes to what you were saying about people living in all different parts of the country, that's the same here. I find that animals that I breed here, that are used to these conditions, a lot of the stuff I have here is a mix of Eastern and Kimberley Northern. You send some of those animals down to South Australia or down to Melbourne where it's a lot colder, and these animals just pack up, they don't breed, and so we're having that problem here in Australia too. So you guys there, you're really behind the 8 ball when it comes to getting consistent results in different corners of your country. You've got a similar geographic area to what we have, and I understand that your weather's going to be massively different in the deep south to what it is to the north or northeast or northwest, and it's going to be a different solution for everybody in each corner of that geography. And it comes down to that, what I was saying before, it's that getting your ambience right. If you get your ambient temperatures right, that's what you've got to. It might be hard, but that's what you've got to crack.
So thanks. So when you have them, you're cooling them, or even when you're warming them up, do you keep them together at all? I know a lot of people in Australia do the pits, and they'll do a couple males and a bunch of females, or one male and 3 females, something like that. How do you keep them together, or do you keep them separated and only put them together to breed?
I basically don't keep them together, and I'll rewind the story to when I first got into blue tongues here. There was a lot of that sort of, we keep them in pits, and I had various little goes at that, and to be honest, you're just keeping animals that are going to survive and not thrive. You may find a particular group of animals go okay in a pit where there's 5 or 6 animals together. Blotchies tend to go all right. That's a bit different if they've got plenty of area, but skinkoides stuff, no. It all needs to be individually housed, in my opinion. You may have pairs that go well, and you may have a trio that are siblings, say, that get on well, but look, they're not going to go any worse if you split them up. So why keep them together? At the end of the day? Yeah, if you've got a pair that get on great and you enjoy them in that space, go for it. But as an operation method, if you want to get into breeding, your mainstream skinks, and that's your skinkoides, your easterns, your northerns, you would be a fool to set them up in situations of cohabitation. Because you'll fail. Yeah.
Which, I couldn't agree with you more. We are individual here, and I think most people in the States do individually. We did talk to Ron St. Pierre last week, a gentleman out of Florida, and he's got 10 pairs of northerns, and he keeps them in his yard in a nice big pen. And he's got roughly, I think he said, about 40 different hide boxes around the pen so they can get away from each other, and they live year round. And I think his percentage was, if I remember right, 80 to 90%. So 8 out of 10 to 9 out of 10 would go for him every year. And I've heard more about European breeders raising colonies together, isolating them based on sex in 1.3 groups in a 4 to 6 foot cage. And with that being said, why they're doing it is sometimes in the United States or anywhere, I feel like we miss our window. I think some cycle before we're ready to cycle them, and I think some cycle a little later than we expect them to cycle. So with them being co-inhabitated the year round, it gives them an opportunity to, when they're in their window, just like a dog or a cat, the male knows when to be around and take care of the job, get her done. Go ahead.
It can be done, and look, when I said everything I said, I'll add that fine print at the bottom. If you could do it, then great, But as a rule of thumb, I don't think ultimately you'll be successful. But yeah, if you've got the right animals and you know what you're doing, you get the right male to cohabit with 3 females or whatever in the right space. Yeah, sure, go for it. But I don't know. It's not what I do. I do it with other skinks. I've got land mullets outside These are colony skinks. I've got blotches that I have in pairs. I do have a couple of easterns that I have in pairs, but at the end of the day, I think for targeted breeding, you're going to struggle long term.
Well, and like what you're doing and what we're doing here, we don't necessarily do the same pairing every single year. We're always looking to progress and take the project a little bit further. So
exactly, so that blows it out the water straight away. Yeah.
So Ryan, did you just raise your hand, or Ben raise your hand? I mean, what's our hands looking like back there? We're good. Ryan got a question instead of faking.
I'm curious. I'm curious. When you're talking about the morphs, over here, and people that we've talked to in Australia, they say that when you're trying to breed like albinos and hypermales, the males can be lazy breeders, or they have a hard time doing it, and often, at least several of the people we've talked to from Australia, they said they outcross them with northerns to kind of strengthen and make them more vigorous. Do you think that is necessary to do? Because over here, there's this huge emphasis on keeping the lines and like localities and different species pure and everything. So
I think that's the one question, isn't it? That you guys, that's the biggest point of difference that I see with you guys and what we're doing with the skinks here, and that's the big sort of roadblock that I see in opinion in regards to that, and it boils down to the mating behaviour for me of the eastern and the northern blue-tongued skink. And yes, when I say this, you will have an example that is contrary to what I say. In general, eastern blue-tongues will not mate as readily inside in a captive situation. I find that my easterns will mate readily outside. They're not. They're a little bit more secretive. You can't just introduce a male and him just grab on and mate, then grab the male, put him back where you got him from. You can do that with northerns. They're shown that northerns are. They love to mate in front of you. And that trait is one of the big reasons why I believe in the mutations. You need a component of northern in there. And then when you stack a doughy mutation, which albinism and hypermelanism is, on top of an eastern blue tongue, which are not the easiest to breed in an indoor captive situation anyway, I think you are, to coin the expression, you're pushing shit uphill to think that you're going to keep those lines pure and have consistent results year on year in a different continent. And I think you're snookering yourselves basically over there with that perception and trying to pursue that. I think you've got to get them mixed into northerns if you want mutations. My opinion is if you happily breed mutations, then I think you're contradicting yourself a little when you say you want to keep things pure, because a pure mutation is a bit of an oxymoron in many ways. And I think if you want success with your morphs, I think you need some mixed blood in there, and that's the only way you're going to get them nice and vigorous and be able to replicate them. And you can mix all the genes together too. So you've sort of got to give up a little bit on that if you want to do it. If you love your pure stuff, stick to your pure locality stuff. If you want mutations and you want to do it, you're going to have to mix them up. Is my opinion.
Well, and in all communities, I'm sure in Australia too, you have your purists. There are people that want to keep it a certain way, and that's everywhere. And I keep saying this. Oh, go ahead.
Say again.
Oh, I was going to say, I've said this before. Oh, come on. Ryan's been here for 59 minutes. He has to take a piss already?
No, he's still up a fan.
Kind of takes like 4 pee breaks every episode. Okay.
He was cutting off a fan.
Hey, Ryan, did you even shake afterwards, or did you just walk right back?
Shake more than twice playing with it, you know what I'm saying? Like.
So, okay, because again, I can't fuck with Ryan because we have 2 hours today, and that takes usually half an episode. So with what you're being said, and I've said this before, the reality is in any community or any species, you can't please everybody. I really believe that everyone should just go in and do what makes them happy. And this is not necessarily a skink
Exactly
reference;
right.
it's a species reference.
That's exactly what I was getting at with that too. You know, there's plenty of space for everybody to do what they want. And the purists can go away and do what they want to do with all that pure stuff. I've got some beautiful lines of pure skinks here that I enjoy working with, and they're sensational. I'd hate to see them hybridized, but when it comes to mutation stuff, I think you're starting to move to a different landscape. And yeah, I'm in danger of repeating myself on it. So yeah.
No, it's fine. Honestly, like 20 people listen to this, you know, it's you're gonna be just fine.
A couple more.
Maybe like I think this episode's gonna be great, honestly. Okay, Ben raised their hand. Ryan, are we gonna let's hear some Ben.
So we're about an hour in, and so early before we all got started, Joe tested out walking his camera around a bit. I would love, I don't know if you can reach it, but I would love to see the land mullets. I don't know if you want to get into walking around a little bit and show your aviary.
Yeah, well, we nearly got there. The problem with land mullets is they're very elusive. So we can wander over there and we can see what we can see, and that's probably the best I can say, really. So let's head out of my house.
I don't want you.
We've got my bird aviaries there.
Yeah.
Cheryl's rocking the tall clothes. I see that.
White claw?
Tall clothes. Got the claw 40s over there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just have a look at this while these two are out on their perch. So this is one end of my macaw aviary.
Do you just breed macaw?
Say again?
Do you just breed macaw?
I couldn't hear you because of what the birds them saying.
Cheryl asked you if you only breed macaws or if you're working with any other bird species.
I've got Amazons. So I've got macaws and Amazons, which are South American, obviously, and I've also got rainbow lorikeets and galahs of Australian species. Yeah.
So Joe,
Yeah.
do you do this full time?
Yeah, we do now. Myself and the wife live here, and we pursue our animal breeding projects full time. We do our dogs, birds, and reptiles, basically. So, yeah. So these aviaries, what these birds can do is they can fly back into the shed, and I can shut them up at night to calm some of this noise that you can hear.
That's awesome.
But we'll head over to the reptile aviaries and come back to that.
This is just amazing. Like, when we see things in the United States or whatever, it's always these like small racks and these little areas. This is like a trailer park for reptiles and birds.
I like how you buttered them up and then you said trailer park.
Yeah.
Ripping it up.
By the way, this is like a really up-class trailer park in Australia I'm looking at right now. Like this
is my large parenti cage, and
Wow.
on the back wall we've got a bit of Aussie art there. You can see the kookaburra in the tree and
Yes.
the big kangaroo there, and they're the trailer park parenti there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
So you said you breed kookaburras?
No, I don't breed them. I've got galahs, not kookaburras, but you can see the kookaburra painting there. Yeah.
I hear they're great fun.
There's wild ones around here. They are good fun. I've got a friendly one that will take food out of my hand that sits on a fence post. So, so yeah, I've got 4 of these big aviaries with reptiles in them. If you can see the length of it there.
Wow.
And each one, well, that first one is one aviary, but each of the others has a partition. So they're essentially 2 aviaries. They're 3 by 3 meters squared each one, and in each one you've got and different setups. This one, you can see a blotchy there. Just, I've got a bit of cohab going on in this one. You've got yakka skinks and blotchies in here, but unfortunately, it's the wrong time of year to see them. You know, they're under those rocks, and yeah, they're not something I can just flip and get them out.
That's an awesome setup, man. I really like that.
So
Well,
there's 3 yakka skinks in there and 2 blotchies.
So you moved. Was it about a year ago you moved, or about 2 years ago you moved to this
It's
new
actually
property?
3 now, yeah.
3 now.
Yeah. Some of the older videos were at another place. So I've got baby parentes in here. These are some that I've bred. If I put that there, is that still working?
Yep.
Yep. You're good.
I'll see if I can get in there and catch them.
This is so cool.
Wrestling apprentice.
Got him.
Look how beautiful it is.
Okay, so
Oh man,
Wow.
that's the thumbnail right there.
this guy's coming up to 12 months old.
That's amazing, dude.
Wow.
That is a really nice looking animal.
There is another one in here somewhere. He bite you very readily. Wouldn't you know that? When they have this much space, they're basically wild. You know, it's a bit cold today. He's thrashing his tail though.
So you bred those, huh? Man,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Wow.
There's another one in here somewhere. I don't know where he is though. Maybe over here. Pass. I don't know where he is. Could be in this one. Yeah, he's down there. Can you see him?
Oh, yeah.
Just see. Be
Well-
dark, but you can possibly just see his head. Yeah.
Well,
Well, till
kinda.
there he is. There he is.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, he's in there. We'll try and do the same with the land mullets, but it'd be a bit harder. And we're getting further away from my internet, so
That's fine. You can head back to the house, man. We really do appreciate that walkthrough.
What? No, what? Landlord, this is all right.
Dave's too nice.
No, you're right. You're right. Keep going. Push the limits, buddy. I want you to
Yeah.
keep walking until we lose you.
this is the land mullet cage here. I want to show you these because these are actually my favorite lizard.
Yes.
We screwed up. We had the opportunity to buy some, and we passed, and then we'll never see him again.
Ever.
They are amazing.
Dang it.
Way to go, Ben.
What we've got in here is I've got a load of long logs, and I actually cut out the bottom of all the logs, if you see, so
Okay.
that anything that's in the logs I can catch it when I want to. He says when I'm trying to catch one. We'll see. I haven't seen these guys for a couple of months because it's been cold, but so I'm not sure whether we'll get one or not. There,
There we go.
you got him.
Oh, yeah. They're a big black skink, man.
That's not an adult. He's gone. That's going to be your lot, I'm afraid.
Saw it at least.
But that's
Awesome, man.
bullets. That's all you ever see. They're very, very reclusive, and I don't really want to flip all those logs because they're quite happy.
No, you're okay. You know what? And by the way, Joe, you're not going to understand this reference, but this reminds me of what it's like to herp in New Jersey. You really don't think you're ever going to find anything, but you know they're there.
Yeah.
Talking about, man, we
So,
landed
yeah,
a king snake.
Yeah, it's a great king steak, man. That was legit king steak. So, Joe, as you're walking, we're gonna have some nonchalant conversations. Do you pay attention to what's going on in the United States as much as we pay attention to what you guys have going on over there?
In regard to what, reptiles or just?
Well, reptiles, of course. We already talked politics. We don't have enough time to talk politics.
Yeah, I used to be a big watcher of some of the Barchick stuff early days and so on, but I'm afraid I don't really anymore. I've sort of just as I've gotten a bit older and crankier, I just tend to do my own thing, and I try and avoid too much internet stuff and all that kind of stuff. So, me personally, I don't pay attention to much other than what I'm doing these days, really.
Yeah. Very one-sided relationship here, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those are
I
blotches.
have to be honest. There's some blotches for you.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Okay, so that's your super pinstripe morph there, and there's a normal next to it. So,
Wow.
and these cages that I have here, you've probably seen these online before. They're a rabbit hutch style situation. In the back, you've got sawdust, and then they can come out into this area here for basking and so on. So, and then you've got open sides so that you can get sunlight through there. So, and then off the ground so that, they're not getting wet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a large array of tarps and stuff at the back so that I can keep weather deluge off them, whether it's too much rain or too much sun, So, yeah.
That looks great. I've always loved your cage setup.
Pardon?
Oh, I was saying, I've always loved your cage setup, but there's a lot of people in the United States, or the people that have done outdoor enclosures, I feel like have modeled their cages around what you've done.
I suppose that they're not unique in the sense as to what they are. They're rabbit hutchers, but to use them in this method for blue tongues, it's something that I've seen Australian keepers move towards, as opposed to what you described earlier as the pit idea. Putting 5 or 6 animals in a pit is not going to be as successful as doing what I'm doing here. So that's sort of the shift that you've seen with Aussie keepers over the years, in regard to keeping them outdoors. I've got a pair of Easterns together here, and this sums it up really. These are quite compatible. But whenever you reach for animals that are paired together, put in the same cage, you'll find sort of little bits of broken scales on one, or where one's given the other a bit of a touch-up. Healthy stuff, but still, it's not. If you don't have to do it, why would you? This is a pair that are happy together, but at the same time, you wouldn't want to do it with everything that you've got. So this is a patternless here. And his wife is there, a single copy het.
So how many morphs are you working with right now in blue tongues?
In blotches, there's 2. There's Xanthic and Super Pinstripe, and then in the Syncoides there is 7 different mutations. So you've got your albino, your hypermel, the white northerns, the anri or Xanthic, whatever you want to call it, and there's a few different localities of Xanthic. So there's a few different lines of those, but I just call them one mutation because it's the same thing. Then you've got the patternless, which you just saw. You've got the T plus albino. And you've got the 7th one, which I'll show you shortly, which I've called patchwork, which I believe to be something that can give similar results to pied when it's utilised correctly over the next few seasons.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, in Australia, because, in the United States, garter snake mutations are kind of one of the more readily available animals because, we have a very large garter snake collection or population in the United States. So in Australia, you guys are literally skinks everywhere. When somebody
Yeah.
finds a mutation in the wild, do they call Joe Ball? Or what's the pecking order over there?
I'll get to that in a sec. But while we're still out here, I'll just show you the rest of the aviaries there. So this is something I've just completed. So each and every one of the cages has the ability for the birds to fly back into the aviary and back out again. And I can shut the door and shut them up at night. So you've got another pair there. And yeah. So you've
I
got
really like that, man.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
So for instance, this aviary here, this pair of birds today, I haven't let those out. They're still inside. So you can see that. All I have to do is open that door and they'll come flying out. And then this pair, you know, they're out today. So
that setup for large monitors, I think, would be really cool.
yeah. The only problem with monitors is how would you get them to come in for you? You know, you can train monitors to a degree, but birds, you can truly train them. All I have to do is put nuts on the plate in the shed and they fly back in and I shut the door, you know.
True.
Really easy to do. But yeah, back to your mutation thing. I suppose there's no real, what you just said, there's some truth in that. I've had plenty of contact when people have popped something up in their collection, you know, asking me what it is and so on and so forth. And I have picked up a couple of different mutations via that way. You can't just grab them out of the wild, unfortunately. I've never actually had anything that's come straight out of the wild, or at least I've not been told that it's straight out of the wild, mutation-wise anyway. But yeah, I'm certainly one of the 2 or 3 people that tend to get the messages when something new pops up. And I suppose that puts me in a good place because, you know, if it's something that I want to work with, I can put the hard word in to try and get hold of it, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, which leads me to something else, I suppose, that I'll show you back. We'll go back into the reptile room. Just off the topic of blueies for a second, but a close cousin. This is the only albino Cunningham skink.
Cunningham.
Gotcha.
Now that is the only one, that one animal right there. Have you produced babies from it?
That's the only one. That is the only one. So
wow.
I have produced babies from it, but also I've got she just spewed up a bit of a water in anger at me grabbing it. But yeah, that I've produced babies from it, but they're just hets at this point. So we've got the project underway. We've got hets, but that's the only visual albino, and there, in comparison, you can see, let her go. You can see the wild type, just to give you that contrast in appearance. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Wow.
What a great project.
I love that project. It's probably my favorite reptile project at the moment. And in this cage here, we've got, there's some of her offspring there. So
really cool.
Yeah. There's 3 of those. Oh, there's one hanging off the light up there. You see that one there?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wouldn't have expected that.
So yeah, that's that was produced by a keeper in New South Wales, and he sold me the entire project. So yeah,
that's awesome. I know in the past 12 months there was would look to be a really extreme pied-sided eastern, I believe, found by someone's poolside, and I think they donated it to like the local, I don't even know, conservation, or I'm not sure.
I'll have a word with you about that. Do you guys just want? Can you talk amongst yourself for 30 seconds while I go and plug this phone in? Because I noticed the power's going dead. Since it's been on live stream, it's chewed up the power.
Yep.
So
no problem, man.
The rest of the show we'll have to do here, but I'd better just run and grab it. I'll be 30 seconds.
Sure.
Very good.
So Cheryl is enjoying the bowling alley. Did you tell her about all the action that you guys get?
Well,
Did you tell about the? No, you did.
when we got here, there was a crackhead. She lingered.
In the bushes, staring at us, like literally just walked back and forth and just stared. Didn't even break eye contact. It was the creepiest thing.
Female
I was freaking out. I walked over there to make sure she wasn't like talking us behind the bowling alley. Yeah.
Cheryl's all like, she's gonna call the cops, and I'm like, crackheads don't call the cops.
Yeah. She's gonna call the raccoons.
She's gonna call her the crackheads up. They're on speed dial, buddy.
Holy crap!
I did notice that you guys keep muting the volume, and then you like lean off screen, and then Cheryl laughs at us. So
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so
Oh,
I've got power. I just need an extension just to get that there.
I have a few off reptile questions for towards the end when we're at like 10 minutes left.
Sure, because that's the fuck about 10 minutes. You want to get reptile questions in now?
All reptile
No
questions.
reptile questions.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Hey.
so that should be charging again. Surely. Oh, where is it on?
Hey, Joe, you're cutting into our 2 hours, buddy. You got to step that up, man. I need some pace over there. Come on, Ryan, get your shit together.
Hopefully that's. I can't see the charger thing on it, but
Nope, you look like a nice clean screen, buddy.
yeah, that's good. Okay. So
funny.
yeah, you were saying about you described it as a white-sided thing, and that's the perfect description. I had Dav Kaufman here, and on the video that when he was filming the video that you guys saw, and I'm working on something similar, which is in intermedia, so it's in the northerns. This is a pure northern, and I believe it to be either the same mutation as that eastern or very, very similar in the sense that it has, it's white-sided and a stripe down the back, and it also has a pink tongue and little patches of pied on it. I'll get it out for you.
And the patchwork.
I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
If you can
this.
see that,
Uh-huh.
it's got the striping down the back and it's got the white sides. It doesn't have the same contrast as the eastern that was found, but the easterns are going to have more contrast because there's more pigment in them. If you look here, see he's got a pink tongue too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Isn't
that wild? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really
So
cool.
that's got. Try and get that. You see the stripe down the back, and you can see it's totally devoid of pattern anywhere else on the animal. Stripe down the back. And
It's almost like green colors.
So, and I've called that patchwork. But when Dav Kaufman was here, he saw this, and he said it's very similar to the white-sided mutation that he works with. I did see one of his posts on Instagram recently. I don't know what species that white-sided mutation is in, though. I forget the snake that he was posting, but you guys probably understand that better than I. But yeah, that's that there. And I think either from this or if that animal is released into somebody's care that can breed it or something else that pops up, that's the next level to blue tongue morphs, is being able to not only create the color morphs, but then be able to create something akin to pied and get that real contrast of that a pied mutation can give. So yeah, that's that.
Very unique.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not as good as that Eastern you're talking about. I know that's something else, but I'm hoping it's something similar.
Oh, yeah. And, like I said, I mean, if you guys having such a dense population, I imagine there's a lot of mutations that, people never even notice, of course. Same thing here. Because I think there was a video I watched last year with an educational thing where they found another patternless in the wild, and I think that was another pure Eastern, but it looked a little different from the stock you guys were already working with.
Yeah, there's well, there's two different lines of reduced pattern that I personally worked on. And I know there's another couple out there. I proved one out to be reduced pattern recessive. Then I've proved another one out to be reduced pattern at codominant, so het level, and then the super form's totally patternless. They were what I just showed you outside. So there's half a dozen, I dare say, different pattern mutations already out there, and then you've got this white-sided thing coming in, and hopefully when all that's mixed in to the other mutations, you're going to see something to rival the lava.
Yeah, hopefully. Now, Joe, I know we've had some side conversations about the last mutation that you talked about. Can we talk a little more in depth about how that popped up, or do you want to keep that on the DL?
Which, the one that I've just showed you?
The one we just said, the white-sided, or have you actually named that mutation? Patchwork, I'm sorry.
Patchwork, that actually popped up within my T+ animals. So I picked up the T+ mutation from a blue tongue breeder up at Rockhampton. And I outbred that mutation. And then from that outbreeding, that has come out as well. So it's already combined with the T+. So I've got different versions of it. I've got a T+ patchwork. I've got a normal patchwork. Yeah. And it's proven out to be recessive in the same mode. So it was just lucky within an existing mutation.
Well,
so
you know
what I'm saying is that one of my T+ was het for that patchwork, and it came out of that. So,
really
but you're only
cool.
going to find that stuff if you outbreed it, keep the babies, and go and follow the process, and that gets me onto another topic where people will say, "Oh, lucky bastards found a mutation," whether it's me or somebody else. But you usually find that the people that do lots of outbreeding and breed lots of different generations of a given species, you will find that more than half of those people will find a mutation at some point. So I turn around and say it's not luck when you actually breed lots of lines of animals. You will either improve a trait or you will find something totally new within it. You know, I see you guys, you and Cheryl, breeding your blue tongues and popping out stuff that's a notch above what others are doing in different instances and so on. And that's because you've put the time into it and you're selecting different animals and pairing them. And to me, that's what's going to happen if you're going to do that.
Yeah, and it's in our circumstance, skinks have always been something that's been I've been pretty passionate about. I'll be honest, I'm a boa constrictor guy deep down, but skinks were always that really nice first pet for somebody. And when everything really started taking off, and I know we talked about this before, like we kind of started going around and just getting what we could from everybody we could in the industry that was doing something super unique, so we can kind of mix them up ourselves.
And that's it.
I know he's watching.
That's the formula right there. I didn't want to cut you off, but that's it. You got to go around. You got to get a bit from everybody, and then you got to mix it all up a bit, and you got to see what you can do with it. Like that's it.
Yeah. And again, we're trying to work with what we can with a small gene pool, do unique stuff, and I'm sure Benjamin and Ryan saw this animal today. The updated pictures from Frank on his dark line. Frank Payne, fucking Payne. You're watching this, I'm sure. So he's a few generations into breeding animals he got from a lady here named Diana. And honestly, they look anearthristic at this point. They are virtually a melanistic animal with a lighter colored head. Absolutely unbelievable. I'll send you a picture afterwards, but he put that up today, and that's what I woke up to. What a nice looking animal.
Yeah, and like I say, that must be the result of some thought processes, some breeding. It's not just pulled out of his backside, is it? So and that's what it is. And all of us will find stuff if we put the time and energy and effort into it. and,
Well,
and
you know,
that's all the result.
That's it.
Oh, there
yeah,
it
that's
is,
it. Can you zoom in on that a little bit so Joe can get the full experience? Do we have a zoom option?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, what's the is the eye color black?
No,
No, it's a lime red northern.
orange. It's literally it's gotta be.
He's got
So
another picture where it's got a second half of the animal, like the upper torso. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good, hey. Yeah.
So that's a non-mutation, but a lime-bred trait with dark lineage in the United States.
Yeah, and that's an opportunity. Like that would be similar to what I did with the albino carpets up there that you saw. I found a bred line that was not a mutation, that was lime bred for that darker look. And in the absence of a true hypermelanistic carpet python, I used that to get to that point of larva. Use polygenics rather than you got to use what you can get. And you will always find opportunity in the hypermelanism animals. That's where all of the fun lies, because you're going to get your contrast. So there's opportunity within that. You just need some albino stuff, because that's Indonesian, isn't it? That animal.
Oh, what did you say about that animal?
Is that a it's not Indonesian, is it? That's a
northern,
isn't it?
That's northern.
At first glance, it looks Indonesian. It looks a bit like one of those exanthic gigas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, completely unrelated. Something that's been worked on here off and on for years. And, we have, again, small gene pool, like you said. Eventually things are going to pop up. I mean, we bred classics together and made very unique dark animals. Benjamin and Ryan, the first skink they got, was actually an animal that I produced from breeding classics, but it came out with a much darker pigment. And then, again, isolating that, and like you said, polymorphic or polygenic traits, line breeding them over time, because, again, that's all we really have going on here. There's mutations in the country, don't get me wrong, but we just don't all have the opportunity to get our hands on them.
Yeah, and the problem is those mutations that are in the country, it's the same with any mutation to start with. Half of them won't be any good. It'll take a while for them to become widespread. Those odd ones that breed, the people will hang on to progeny from them for some time. So it's a long process, unfortunately.
Sure.
But in my opinion, it's good that they're there. I don't care how they got there, whatever. They're there. You guys need to have them because you can enjoy them. And I hope they do take a foothold over there, and you can enjoy them like we have down here, to be honest.
Hopefully. Which one's that right there? Is that the one from your guys' collection?
That's the offspring from that male that we got from you.
Okay, really nice. Yeah, can't keep them all.
Oh man, I told you.
Yeah, no.
Remember, I didn't want him to sell it. Oh
You
man, that's nice.
That stuff is way ahead of any northerns we have down here outside of the true mutations.
Next year,
Born there, because everybody's talking about how they have all this awesome stuff. I'm like, we have awesome stuff too.
Yeah, well, it is. There's no northerns like that. In fact, there's a couple of people that try and troll that stuff of yours and say that there must be something else in there and it's not pure or this, that, and the other. But really, it's the result of some solid line breeding, and it just because it doesn't look like a classic Darwin, it can get some people's nose out of joint, can't it?
Next year,
again, I hate to be a broken record. I've said this before on episodes. The more people getting into this species in the United States is just offering more opportunity to see new, unique things that other people wouldn't do.
Yep.
I understand that dark line has been worked on, and Diana and other people put a lot of effort into it. But that animal that you just showed that Frank Payne produced was my favorite animal of the year produced in the United States. And I think last year the dark animal he produced was my favorite animal produced in the United States. So, and I don't know what it is. It's something that's so far from what we're working with here that just makes you like it even more.
Wait until next year for us.
I hope so, guys. And I'm going to need at least one, maybe two.
Is there anybody over there that's actually got albinos and hypers up and going and breeding them?
Oh, but they have hypermelanistics. Albinos, albinos have been in the United States for like 10 to 12 years, I want to say,
Yeah.
but all we have is males, and they typically don't breed very well here.
Yeah.
Ryan's going to grab it, I think.
You go to
And,
grab
yeah,
them out?
and again,
We do have a male. We do have a male, but luckily it was a female, and her first year we bred her, and we didn't realize it was a female and stuff like that. And she produced two pretty much stillborn babies, and it was her first year, and we're like, trying to figure it out. This year, we really thought we were going to knock it out of the park. She locked 5 times with a male, and she just didn't do anything. Didn't get gravid, didn't swell, nothing. So we've had her on UVB. We cooled her down real cold. The whole bit, and so fingers crossed next year will be her year.
What male are you using? Are you using just a straight Eastern, or?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we've tried so far.
Are you going to try multiple males next year, or?
We have multiple males now, so maybe.
Okay, so with your multiple male comment there's a gentleman down at Tiki Geckos, Manny, who's been breeding skinks for the last few years, and me and him have had side conversations. With some species, when you use multiple males, the sperm from the one male will actually kill the sperm from the other male. Is there anything you've noticed with using multiple males on blue tongues over the years that have shown you any signs of that being a possibility?
I think that it would only increase your chances, but again, if somebody can provide evidence to the contrary, then fair enough. But look, I would surely think that multiple males would benefit. I've done that on quite a few occasions, and I've never come up with the idea that it's holding me back.
Yeah. In our position here, being in a more of a position of line breeding, we try to isolate just one male to breed a female, so then we know what we're doing, so we can do the building blocks. Where you guys having mutations, and again, multiple versions of that mutation male makes it a little easier. But for us, a lot of times we try to go more one-on-one when we're trying to do higher end projects.
Yeah, and that's the same for me, sure. But I just meant specifically in that situation where, look, you'd kill for it just to have a litter. You know what I mean? So you just and of course when you get to the pointy end and you've got specific pairings to do, you've got to put specific males over specific females. And again, that counters your argument for housing stuff together, because you want to see if they're locking, you want to see, you want to know what's going on and so on. So yeah.
Okay, Benjamin and Ryan, what you got going on up there in those big brains?
I did want to ask, how many do you usually produce off of an Eastern pairing? Like we did well, we think, this year with our Easterns, but I don't think that we really hit the full potential. I mean, we produced, what was our maximum on one female? It was like
15, 17? It was 15, I think, and it was a stillborn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's typical. You'll find that Easterns will have bigger litters than Northerns. So I don't know what you guys find, but that's how I see it. Is that not all Easterns, because the geographic range that Easterns cover is pretty large, but the further north you go, I would say the litter size decreases slightly in the Eastern range. But yeah, Easterns as a rule would be sort of upwards of 15, 16, and Northerns, it can be 8, 9, something like that. Okay.
Because, of course, I say something to Peter Birch about it, and he goes, 15, man, I'm having 24 and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah, I mean, that happens, but that's not the norm. You may have there are certain Easterns that will do that, but I'd rather talk in averages rather than
well, that's good.
Individual instances, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So, hey Joe, you got any other hidden gems over there you haven't talked about yet? Anything that's not mainstream that you want to break the ice on, or you want to keep that shit on the DL?
I suppose that's one thing that I'll say I've always done over the years. I've never really hidden anything. I've always just put it out there, what I'm working on. That's why I have people here. That's why I'm happily do these kind of things. I don't have secret projects that people don't know I've got. Anybody can come here within reason. You know, people come here and film and see all my animals. So, you know, what you see is what you get. That's the latest and greatest, the patchwork stuff. And that's what I'll be working on and getting it into all the other genetics. I'll happily show you some of the other stuff that's I've already posted, but I can run you through some of the examples that I've produced from the my quad genetic line, if you like,
That's awesome.
and give you a bit of the insights that I've gotten off that. I suppose that's probably the best thing to do. I'll grab sort of 2 or 3 animals at a time, and these are the result of this pairing. What I did was I locked up Anery, albino, white northern, and hypermel all into the same group of animals. So
Wow.
they're basically quadruple hets. There's also a polygenic hypo in there as well, which I wouldn't call it genetic, but it has an influence too. So, you know, you've got basically 5 traits in there, and in the litters, it's basically like a lolly shop, you know. There's a video I posted recently of one litter with all these animals that come out, and I'll grab a few of them and show you, and I'll talk you through what each one is.
All right.
So,
We could take a side note and say, so Vegemite, what Vegemite is, it's leftover yeast. Oh,
Is it
sure.
leftover yeast?
It's leftover yeast with vegetable and spice. I guess. I don't know if it's.
So, by the way, I don't want to be rude, but do you really want to follow up a recessive quad combo with that classic?
That's the one we got from you that you're crying about selling to us.
Hey, what I made was beautiful, but goddamn, buddy. Oh, man.
Oh, freak.
Here we go. Here we go.
Look at this.
okay, so this guy here, if you like your black reptiles, this is the combination of Anery and hypermel,
Wow, look at his belly.
and it's got a flash white belly.
Yeah.
Hyper's still going over the top of it, so there's still little bits of black that you can see there, but you can clearly see that that's white. That's not in slough, you know?
Right.
And it's got the jet black Anery eyes. So I called that guy a blackout, and
That's beautiful.
obviously the big difference between that and the standard hyper is the belly and the eyes. So your standard hyper has a belly like your lava here, you know.
Yeah.
And that guy doesn't, and it's also got the black eyes. Just fighting with these guys trying to get away too. So I'll just put that one in there.
I find that our melanistic, something that I didn't know, you know, looking at them, is that the skin is actually red, but the scales are black. So, like, if you flexed where the black back end or the sides are, you flex it, you can see the skin is red, which is super cool.
And that's
Makes me
what I
think
mean about. Go on. Sorry.
Well, it just makes me think about the belly, that the scales are just more translucent, maybe on the belly instead of really black.
Yeah. This guy here, this I believe is the closest I've produced to displaying all 4 genes, and I'll get something similar to show you.
Yeah, I feel like it's only a matter of time before a leucistic pops up in Australia. I'm surprised they haven't had a leucistic line yet.
True. I just want to say that the viewership is going to go up just because Charles on.
Can't hurt, right?
I'm just saying what everybody's thinking.
Oh.
Okay, so this guy was one of the first combos I produced. This is your snow. So, and that's typified with the fact that it doesn't produce any orange pigment. It's an albino clearly, and it's clearly anery because of the fact that it's taken out the orange pigment, and there's no orange in the eye. A standard albino blue tongue still has an orange outer ring and a red central ring, whereas your snows just have totally red eyes because the orange pigment is taken out by the anery or xanthic. Not a lot of people see that, and you can see it in this guy here. Don't know if you can pick it up on the camera. That guy's still got the orange eye. See it?
Yeah, I can see that.
And this is your albino white northern. So this is white northern and albino in the same animal, and that's that's a sun glow. So on these two animals here, you albino white northern and then anery albino. Okay, and I'll pop this guy back because he's a bit feisty. Okay, and then to go to the next level, this guy here, this is a combination of all three of those. I also believe it's hypermel, but I'll get to that in a second. This guy is totally white. There is not a single scale of any color whatsoever on there at all. You've got snows that have yellow. I've even produced some polygenic snows that are white, but they still have pigment on them. And then, so on your albino, when you add anery, it's obviously anery because there's no orange in the eyes. It's almost got a cherry colored eye. Get that in focus there. So it's clearly anery because there's no orange in the eye. And it's also, it has to have the white northern genetics over the top of it too, because it's even whiter again. And I believe it's hypermel because similar to what you were saying there, when you lift the scales, you can see sort of an intensity of something trying to fight through. And I see that on the hypers. And that's that animal there. And that was a result of from my quad line. So I believe that to be visual, all four of those traits.
And are any of that hybridized?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is because your anery comes from Kimberley, your white northern comes from Darwin, and your albino and hyper come from Sydney Easterns. So it's 50% northern, 50% eastern. And I suppose 25% Kimberley, 25% Darwin, and then, the rest is Sydney Eastern. But obviously your Kimbo is a northern, so yeah, it's 50% northern. You can't do this without mixing those two subspecies, because the mutations don't all occur in the one subspecies.
I just wanted to, knock that home for anybody that's out there watching.
Calm down, Ben. Go get his band.
Just the tip, Ben. Just the tip, buddy.
You know me so well.
I just know all you got is a tip, buddy.
Hey, that's all you need, right? I thought that's all you need. No?
He's
production right there, buddy.
Ain't no tips on the Jews, man. Come on.
Cheryl, how you liking the bowling alley?
I hear a lot of noises. If you haven't noticed, I've been looking to left and right quite a bit. Anxiety people right here right now.
A lot going on in
that one woman really threw me off right from the get-go.
Okay, so
on the corner.
Here we've got some T plus, or the Australian version of T plus, and I know you guys have something you call T plus over there too. So this actually proved out to be a recessive mutation, and you can see it there. It turns all the black pigment into a lilac or lavender color.
Oh yeah.
And softens basically every color in the animal, and that is a straight recessive. It's debated as to whether this is an albino here maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But at the end of the day, it is a recessive mutation. And when it comes to labeling, I think you guys find the same. A lot of names stick based on what the first person called them when he had them. So sometimes the labeling isn't accurate, but that's what they're referred to as here is T plus albino, and that's what's stuck. So yeah.
I mean, it looks like a T positive mutation to me based on other species I've seen over the years. So
yeah, and that's all you can do is label it objectively based on precedent, right? So you've got a precedent T plus albino. This is similar. Let's run with it. There's nobody running around doing genetic testing to prove anybody wrong or right, so on. There's nobody spending money on sequencing of DNA in reptiles at this certain point. So, you know, whatever the founder of the mutation rolls with, as long as it's not totally ridiculous, you sort of have to accept it, which is why I understand the T plus name that's used on your animals over there too, you know. They are a point of difference. That's the name they've got.
Understandable. We have certain lineages over here that are hypomelanistic that aren't maybe not genetically hypomelanistic, or not hypomelanistic, produce a black pigment. But, you know, like I said, and that goes with anything, you know, as soon as you put a name on it and it becomes the name, it's just what it is. You can't change
It's
it.
the name. Yeah.
But, yeah, your T positive northerns, I'll be honest. To get a T positive northern in the United States with the line breeding we've done with our red, orange, yellow, and dark lines, we could take that project to the next level, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, you can take it to another level anyway. The direction that you can take it in with the stuff that you've got, you can do stuff that I can't do with it, you know. And that's why I'd love to see a lot of this stuff over there. And I, you know, let's hope more of it pops up. In my opinion, might be a controversial thing to say, but I don't really care. It's not me doing it. I don't have any interest in spending my time in prison or losing my animals in the process. But if more hobbyists around the world have these animals, then, you know, more people can enjoy them. And
Yeah, Joe, I don't want to break it to you, buddy. You are way too pretty to go to prison, man. You will not make it.
Yeah.
I did have a quick question that's not necessarily reptile related. So how well do you know Paul Hogan?
Paul Hogan.
Yeah, he's Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, Crocodile Dundee. I was thinking being an Englishman, I was thinking of two Hogans then. I was thinking, are we talking Hulk Hogan here or Crocodile Dundee? That's old Paul. I've never met Paul, unfortunately. I did used to watch those shows when I was a kid growing up in the UK too. He's a bit of an overseas icon. He's a bit like Steve Irwin for that. You know, Steve Irwin, yes, he's very famous here. Of course he is, and so is Paul Hogan. But those two examples of people that were massive in the UK and in the States, right? You know, and those two people form all of our stereotypes of everybody in Australia, don't they? You know, so
Pretty much. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't even know you guys knew what a trailer park was until today.
Paul Hogan was class, wasn't he? You know, and all that. I don't know how far you guys go back, but he used to have a little sort of show before he did Crocodile Dundee that was on TV with lots of little 2-minute skits in there that were quite funny in the day too. I used to watch those growing up in the UK.
Yep, the Paul Hogan show.
That was it. Yeah, it was the Paul Hogan show. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I don't want to be ignorant. He's Australian?
Yeah.
There's a lot of actors that pretend to be things. I didn't know. I had no idea he was Australian.
Let me just put these guys back.
You want to talk about Paul Hogan?
And that was the last time Joe Ball did a podcast for Herp House Rock.
And he's actually going to turn his camera off now. He's never going to come back.
You guys ruined it.
I didn't say it's about Steve Irwin. I said something about a guy who, unless you said Crocodile Hunt, I didn't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. Well, yeah, Crocodile Dundee. I'm sorry. I'm more Steve Irwin and Paul Hogan into one person and called it a hybrid name of
Steve Irwin just overshadowed them.
crocodile hunter.
Yeah.
This guy here, this is 100% het for albino, hyper, white, and anery. So that is, and as we just discussed, he's 50% northern, 50% eastern. So he carries all those genes.
Wow.
Very cool.
And he's a gun too. He'll put away five, 6 females if you let him.
Wow.
You know what? So that's a good question because, in my early days of skink breeding, I had a male named Bam Bam. And Bam Bam would go through anywhere from 7 to 10 females a year with a very high success rate. For whatever reason, I feel these last 2 years, and maybe it's because we're doing more line-bred animals that are a little weaker, I don't expect a male to be able to handle more than maybe 2 to 3 females a year.
But the more they are, the smaller the litter size. I'll get like one baby and a bunch of slugs. So for the earlier females, I'll get a nice, full, healthy litter. And then you'll notice over the timeline, the amount of babies will decrease to the point where there might just be one baby and all slugs.
Yeah.
Fertility rate.
Again, I think you're on the money. The more line breeding you do, the more you're going to find that. But also, it's very easy to dismiss everything as a result of what you're doing. I see that a lot here. People say, "Oh, weak mutations, blah blah blah." I've also bred some common Easterns before and seen them spit out literally just a load of crap. And they're wild type Easterns. They can have deformities, this, that, and the other. So I personally also think that a component of skink's litters are designed to be kookaburra food, and no better way to describe it really. I don't think you can change that to a certain degree, And back to the males. So, some to round that point out, some males do and some don't. The sibling, I got a sibling of this guy, it was no good, but this guy would mate everything in the shed, and then the other one, well, doesn't know what he's doing. So that's just natural variation, isn't it?
Yeah.
So with snake breeding over the years, there's always random little tips, random little things. I know of boa constrictors back in the day, there was talk of, or any species really, putting a male shed from another animal in the cage to get the male riled up. Sperm plugs, rubbing them in a different cage to kind of get males riled up. Go ahead.
Have you noticed? Okay, so there's the fertility thing as far as keeping so many males in one area. You asked.
Don't talk to me.
I'm not done asking things.
Do you? Okay, so I'm sorry, Joe.
I'll answer that question quickly. I don't find that works with skinks, but it does with snakes.
Okay, agreeable. Okay, so the question. Okay, so before we ask this question, we got to know how many breeder blue tongue skinks do you have in your collection right now?
In the same room.
In the same room.
In this, my actual breeders. I have a third of them outside at any given time and 2/3 of them inside, and that would add up blotches. So everything, my westerns, my blotches, and my skinkoides projects, there would be no more than about 110, something like that.
Skinkoides.
Pardon?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. Okay.
Well, okay, so the reason for that question is something that we've been kind of talking about, because I really feel in the United States, as people start growing their collections, their fertility rate goes down.
Yeah.
Males.
When you have the more males you have, I've noticed, is the less or more willing to breed.
Yeah, certain males, when you have too many males, seem not interested. So we were talking pheromones in the past.
Yeah.
Whether or not there could be a pheromone in the air that could be causing dominant males to make more submissive males not willing to breed.
I would personally say no. With my experience, all the males I have in this room will all breed this year.
Okay. I got a follow-up question to that.
There's about 15 of them, and I don't think that the presence of other males will put them off their stroke. Put it that way.
Okay. So we've had some troublesome males in the past that we do our side bin for breeding, and putting the male in a side bin, he loses his mind, pisses all over the place. is not willing to breed. He's too preoccupied trying to get out of the bin. We've introduced the males to a female bin, and those males have not been successful, but introducing the male or the female to the male bin for our more skittish males, we noticed we've had more successful breeding. You guys do anything like that?
Yeah, and I suppose for me that's so I fall into the trap of certain things that I've learned over the years. I just don't put two males anywhere near the others because you will literally get one male that will go nuts. As soon as he tastes another male, he'll just go nuts in that same cage. So it sort of contradicts what I'm saying, but I've got them all in the same room, but I don't allow the male to go in any other cage that the male's got. So maybe they barely know that there's other males around, because when I've done that, I've put snakes in, I've got snakes that won't mate. You chuck two males in the cage, they wrap around each other, have a bit of a fight. You pull one out, put him in with the female. He's never locked up with her before, and then within an hour, they're locked up. With blue tongues, I find that, if you put two males in the same tub, one's just literally going to piss everywhere and run for the hills.
So, by the way, I might have misspoke on that one. So what I was actually saying is, so for our breeding, sometimes we'll take a male and introduce it directly to a female bin instead of our side bins. And sometimes we'll take a female blue tongue and put it in a male bin that they're housed in year round. For our more finicky males that are not willing to breed, we find they do a lot better in their own enclosure than trying to do a side enclosure or put them in the female's enclosure.
Yeah, sure, and they're all finer points. If you've got a male that you feel a bit skittish, then there's no reason why there wouldn't be, that you wouldn't get a little bit more success from that. It makes sense, doesn't it, to put the least confident animal in with the more confident animal, whether it's a male or a female. If you feel that you've got a female that's a bit skittish, because certain females can literally just be very happy in their own environment and not happy at all when you pull them out, so that works both ways. Hey.
How
again, oh, Ben, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bud.
I was going to say, how do you do it, Joe? Where do you put the...
I've tried both over time. There's people out there that say that you would introduce the male to a female or put the female in with the male. There's two lines of school thought there. If you're overstressing a female, you're putting a female that's very happy in her cage into a male's cage, and she's not happy there. She's probably a little bit stressed, and I believe all reptiles are stress animals. And you want to keep the stress levels down to a minimum, no matter what the animal. So if you've got a female, like I previously said, that's a bit skittish, maybe stick the male in with her, and vice versa. Okay. So it's down to the individual animal rather than a rule of thumb.
Case-to-case basis.
Pardon?
Oh, I said a case-to-case basis. Again, paying attention to your animals. Certain ones need a certain special treatment.
Yeah, and that's what I find. A lot of people ask me for answers that are giving them an answer to something that they are trying to steer down a one-stop shop situation, when it's not like that. That each question has or each situation is case by case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let me just pop this guy back.
So while he's popping that back, Ryan and Ben, what do you got going on in your heads right now? Anything good?
Never anything good. Never anything.
So, hey, Ben, for future reference, have you ever seen green screens for the weatherman where you can only see their head floating around because, they kind of blend into the background? You got to work on that t-shirt, buddy. I just see this head floating around this whole fucking time.
I guess my shirt does kind
of blends right the fuck in. It literally looks like that movie Garden State where they cut the fabric out of that bathroom setting and made you a t-shirt.
Like a glory hole. With a head popping
out. You know what?
That is correct.
You know what? I really like where Joe took that. It's not what I meant, but you know what? Good enough, buddy. Good enough.
Yeah.
Well, if my head's through the glory hole, I guess I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the albino tree skinks. I'm still playing around with those guys. They're a bit of fun.
Wow.
Tree skinks?
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's those guys. I play around with yakka skinks too. I'll grab you one of those.
He's just showing off now.
I have all these batteries I never use.
There we go.
Wait, now. Put them on the big screen, guys. Put them on the big
There
screen.
we
There
go.
it is.
Yeah, I love these. These are great. They're a rare skink here, so
That's cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
And that's basically that, really. You know, I used to have more monitors, but I don't do it anymore. Since I got into the birds, I've dropped a lot of my monitor species. So it's just my key skinks, carpets, and the parentes. You know.
Those perennials are cool.
Oh, honestly, Joe, I mean, I don't have to. We already gave you your one compliment of the show, so I really can't say it again. I think what you're doing there is immaculate. I absolutely love your outdoor setup. Very jealous of everything I've seen so far.
You run a
that's
fire trailer
half
park?
back there. That's about as good as it gets right there.
Yeah.
But hey, and another thing, man, let me tell you something. By being a natural blonde, you are an amazing hand model. The colors on those animals absolutely pop in your hands. Are you a redhead? Wait, hold on. I wear sunglasses. Are you really a redhead?
Yes, it's a red.
Oh, well, son of a bitch. Oh, how about that? Well, yeah, I take everything I said back.
This
We're not to edit that part out.
came out.
So I don't want to do this because I'm giving you an out. But is it time for you to go have dinner with your mom, or
It's sort of it's not dinner. I've got to go and help her move some stuff in the house. So she'd asked me, and I've got to get out of here and do that. So
All right. Well,
Your time, man. This has been awesome.
got to look after your mum, guys. That's
Absolutely.
so Ryan, why don't you take us out?
All right, I'll take us out. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on, man. It's been an awesome time. You have
Right,
amazing
well, I've enjoyed
animals.
it. I hope some of those questions, some of the answers I gave answered the questions. It's not always easy to answer them in one line. And some stuff that you've been doing over the years, you don't realise. Sort of, you don't necessarily put a description to it always. You sort of learn it as you go. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful.
It
thank
definitely
you.
was. And I want to thank our guest here, Cheryl, for showing up today, fighting off the crackheads. If you like
So,
this
Joe, I
video,
really hope you get you on. Oh shit! I cut you off. I'm sorry, Ryan. Do it again.
if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you want to see more content like this. Share it with your friends. Joe's a wealth of knowledge. Get the information out there. And thanks for showing up on Herp House Rock.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joe. Honestly.
I appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.